Hola, Jeromes, ¿cómo está usted? It is Friday, so that means it is time for the Friday Jeromes Q&A. Now, we put out for some holiday Christmas questions. I don't think we got any. So this is just a regular old Q&A. I don't know, maybe next week or the week after, whatever. Well, I guess the week after will be too late, but yeah. Anyways, here we go. Mike D, what are your thoughts on the investigation into the Patriots spying on other teams? Well, I actually do believe them that it was part of the documentary film series, but also 8 minutes of sideline B-roll film, probably not. You know, someone works quasi-tangentially in film. You don't need that much B-roll. It's B-roll for a reason. But also, the Patriots are never going to get the benefit of the doubt. And I think that this is a complete controversy. If this happened to any other team, it'd be whatever. But since it's the Patriots, everyone's got to go DEFCON 4. But I actually don't think that this is going to turn into something a la Spygate, a la Deflategate, etc. Doobie, at this point in the season, with what we have seen in Cousins, where's your confidence level 1 to 10? Well, I think with this newfangled offensive line, I think with Stefanski, and I think with Dalvin Cook just rocking things in the running game, I'm pretty confident in Kirk Cousins. I would give it a 7. It could go higher if we see him really throw down in a big-time game. Like if he pulled off that comeback against the Seahawks, I think it may kick up to a 9. But also if he does get it done next Monday night, against Green Bay and helping the Vikings edge back into the NFC North race, and it kicks up to a 9, possibly 10. Ty Smith, who do you see replacing Stefanski for OC in the future? Well, a couple options here, because I think Pat Shurmur's going to get fired with the Giants, and he and Zimmer had a great working relationship, and I could see Shurmur coming back here and taking up the reins again. Would certainly welcome him back. Also, if Stefanski leaves, chances are he probably would take Clint Kubiak, the quarterback's coach, with him because they're boys. I think they have a very good working relationship as well. But also, if Gary Kubiak stays, I could see a world where Clint Kubiak, even though he's extremely young, relatively inexperienced, first year as a quarterback's coach, being bumped up to OC under the guide of Gary Kubiak, which sort of the relationship that Stefanski and Kubiak have now, even though Stefanski obviously has a much higher pedigree than Clint Kubiak the younger right now. Kyle Rippentrop, will Teddy wear purple again, or will he find a different home away from the Vikings? Nah, Teddy ain't coming back. I think the Vikings are going to roll with Cousins at least through next year, possibly into the future. And honestly, if he plays the way that he's been playing for the bulk of this season, I would not be opposed to that. But also, Teddy's earned himself some money. Teddy's earned himself a big-time payday, and I couldn't be happier for the kid, because the fact that he came back from that terrible injury, played at a high level in a high-octane offense, it may be in New Orleans his future, maybe somewhere else, but undefeated as a starter, looked great slinging the ball around. The accuracy is still there. You know, his downfield arm strength has greatly improved as well, which is something that you can do. Adding strength in the NFL is one of the easiest things to do, and I'm ecstatic for the kid. I just hope he doesn't end up in Detroit, because that would suck. Anyways, Blaine Jones. It might just be me, but I've noticed we weren't using the double A-gap blitz much lately. Any reason for this? I think that Zimmer has backed off blitzing quite a bit. Well, they're still showing it often on third down, but usually they're I shouldn't say usually. That's do whatever. But you're seeing them rush 4 and then drop, so they're bluffing quite a bit, and also just changing up who is blitzing. But I think it may be because of some insecurities on the back end of the defense, where if you can go man-to-man across the board, press and feel comfortable about it, you can bring the house. But with the cornerbacks struggling with that the way that they have this year, that's a little bit more dicey. Jeff Becker, did you shoot a deer this hunting season? Who would you want the Vikings to play in the playoffs? Bricked out this year, but fortunately some of our party got some, so the freezer is full, which is great. How would you want the Vikings? Who would you want the Vikings to play at the playoffs? Not the Saints. Wouldn't mind playing the Packers. Obviously would love to play Dallas or Philly. And, if the Vikings welcomed in Seattle in some fashion, I wouldn't be that scared. Because the way that the Vikings played out there Monday night, I actually think that the Vikings more shot themselves in the foot. Blew a couple of opportunities. But the Seattle team, they can get got. They certainly can. Skull Vikings 1040. Handy, I love the show. I was curious about how or what link you go to get that Vikings hat beer behind you. Anyways, I hope you understand my question. Skull went up. That is a good looking question. There you go. Aravo Creations. They sponsored one of our videos a couple weeks ago. We'll include some of the links in there as well. Also, if you use promo code PurpleFTW, you get 20% off plus free shipping. So we'll include that information on this video's description. So check that out down below. And I'm just going to wear this for the rest of the video because why not? Jason Selensky, what is the worst gift you have ever gave or received? Can't really think of worse. Because, well, as a kid, getting socks and underwear, it's just like, wah. But now as an adult, I freaking love socks and underwear, man. It's the only time that they actually get rotated in and out. But, I don't know, worst? I'm actually a pretty good gift giver, not gonna lie, if I do say so myself. As far as gifts I've gotten, I haven't really hated any. But, Oakview. Do you think Phelan will be back for the Chargers? Looks like all signs are pointing towards yes. We're recording this before Thursday practice, but he was limited on Wednesday. We'll see if he's a full participant on either Thursday or Friday. Mark Wills. Do you see how fast Brian O'Neill ran ahead of Ham off the pass play early in the game? Yeah, Brian O'Neill is a physical freak, as well as it's going to be really fun watching him battle against Joey Bosa this weekend. PK. Will you be going to the Packers game? And if so, can we pregame? Woo. Nope. I shall be here locked in the studio, getting ready for the postgame show where we talk about who demand, we demand, who demand, we demand. As the Vikings beat the Packers 42-17. That will be the final score. Ain't no guess. Sam Knopf. Might be going to my first Vikings game week 16. How loud does it get? Recommendations. It is loud. As well as if it's your first time there, try and get in the stadium as early as you can. If you get involved in the tailgating, that's awesome too. Well, yeah, it's going to be Monday night, so it's going to be a good time. But first time there, get in as early as you can, walk around as much as you can, check out all the ancillary stuff that they have in the stadium. It's really cool. Soak it all in. Have yourself a great time. Dominic Ring, 5'8 Club or Matt's Bar? Well, first off, Blue Door over both of them. But if I had to pick between the two, I love Matt's Bar. I like the I think it's got a better burger, as well as I like the atmosphere there better, where it's like your neighborhood dive bar, just sort of pops out of nowhere. I guess just a really cool neighborhood place. Torrey Hansen, if you could draft any two players from the first and second round of the draft this year, who would it be? If you could draft any two players from the first and second round of the draft this year. Wait, so of the previous draft, so 2019. All right, Wiki 2019 because I'm pretty sure that's what he's asking. Let's look at the player selections. There we go. Well, Nick Bosa would be a good one. Nick Bosa across from, sorry, Everson, but Nick Bosa across from Danielle Hunter, like forever. Pretty good. Damn, that burns my first round choice. Well, I take Bradbury for sure. And just looking through. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to cheat. Nick Bosa and Garrett Bradbury. There you go. We're pretty good. Alex Von Weil. Seems to me like we haven't heard much about Barr this season. What do you think about that? Is he doing fine or not so much? Is he, what's the word, coasting? No, I think Anthony Barr has had a really solid season this year. I think they're asking him to do a lot more, adding to his responsibilities. He's blitzing a lot more, as well as he's been really solid in coverage yet again. But also, I think he's been overshadowed a little bit by the way that Eric Kendricks has been playing in the middle. I think Eric Kendricks, in my book, is a first-team All-Pro, and also should be making his first Pro Bowl as well. Ellis Gregor, which Viking rookie has impressed you the most this season? Well, I think it's got to be Garrett Bradbury, especially the way that he really picked himself up, had a slow start to the season. First quarter of the year was kind of meh, but the way that he's really stepped up and grown into the position, that's exactly what you want from a guy that was your first-round pick, and then you hope to be your center for a decade plus or so. Also, Irv Smith, the way that they're working him in is phenomenal. And also Olabisi Johnson. I mean, you have a 7th-round pick who makes the opening 53 and is starting to contribute as a 53-man participant, also as the wide receiver 3. He's got 3 touchdowns on the year. That's massively overachieving. Garrett Kinsler. When we make the Super Bowl, whose jersey are you buying? I'm getting Captain Kirk's. Well, I have a policy of not buying a jersey of a player that is younger than me. So yeah, it actually works out great. So getting like getting something like super throwbacky. Getting like a Mitchell and Ness Scott Studwell. That would be badass, baby. So that might be a double nickel, Mitchell and Ness, double stitch. Let's go. Ethan Bonham. I don't know about y'all, but I feel pretty good about the Vikings grabbing the second seed, last name pronounced Bowman. Second seed. It's gonna be tough. Vikings have to win out, and they need some help. Packers need to drop 2 out of 3, and I think the Saints need to lose out or drop 2 out of 3. Either way, the Vikings need quite a bit of help. So I'll just take the NFC North and then just take my chances from there. Mark Wills, forgot, do you eat, drink at W.A. Frost? Had a couple of nice meals there, and their port list is phenomenal. I have not been to W.A. Frost. I have not heard of them, actually. W.A. Frost. They're in St. Paul. All right, adding to the list of places to go. Props to you, Mark Wills. Eric Spencer, this Vikings team seems different, and I believe they can compete with any team in the league if they're on their game. But do you believe that they can string together 4 consecutive wins against tough opponents to hoist the Jeromes trophy? Well, if the defense gets squared away, and if they suddenly generate some sort of interior pass rush, sure. As well as Adam Thielen back at his full power, yes. Dalvin Cook fully healthy, yes. And Kirk Cousins, we've talked about, can get on these amazingly insane hot streaks. And if they can do that into the playoff time, anything could happen. Landon Miller, if Zimmer is out next year, what kind of coaching candidate would the Vikes look for? Also, any names? Also, Pulp Fiction or Forrest Gump? The archetype would be younger, offensive-minded, as generally the pendulum swings each way. Even though Leslie was a defensive guy, Zimmer's a defensive guy, etc. But yeah, I think they would go young and offensive. I think Stefanski is probably the most interesting one because I would be willing to bet significant amount of money that he will be a head coach next year. Will it be here? I mean, it would take a lot. Here. Pulp Fiction or Forrest Gump? Forrest Gump. Yeah. Byron. Rounds, do you think Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tyler Johnson will be drafted in any chance the Vikings draft either? Haven't really dug into much draft stuff, just a lot of surface, just some first-round stuff. I think Winfield Jr. could be a day 2 pick pretty easily. Same thing with Tyler Johnson. Vikings could be in on either. I mean, Winfield, he can play safety. He can play cornerback for sure. So do the Vikings pick him up as like a J-Ron Curse replacement? I mean, different skill sets, but still fits into that safety cornerback hybrid type role. I don't know. I think Tyler Johnson would be less likely because I think the Vikings are pretty happy with Thielen Diggs as well as Olabisi Johnson stepping up. Blaine Jones. Who's the most annoying sports analyst broadcaster? A lot of them are trash, if you ask me. I don't know. I know that people have like strong feelings for or against broadcasters. I know that a lot of people still hate Joe Buck, even though Diggs, sideline, catch, phenomenal, or whatever the hell it was. I don't really get too worked up about broadcasters. I just assume that they're always biased against the Vikings because they are. Guys that I like, though, I love Al Michaels. I think he's a legend. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's the best play-by-play guy probably ever. Probably, and also across different sports. Like, have you ever heard Al Michaels call baseball? Like, he came up as a baseball announcer. He's phenomenal at that, too. Color analyst. Like Romo. Collinsworth is great as well. Plus, he's got the backing of PFF, so he's got all the numbers. And then also, who do I really like? I really like Charles Davis. I think he's super underrated. I think he needs to be utilized more. I think if Troy Aikman actually does go to a team and become a GM, which he's sort of bandied about, I think Charles Davis should be bumped up to the A team on Fox, etc. So here, David Medina. Like to see Kevin Stefanski take charge as head coach in 2020. Do you think Mike would step down and stand as defense coordinator? It's a good deal since the D is slipping to you, right? I don't see that happening. Just ego dynamic wise, I don't see that dynamic working out. I could see Zimmer just being axed, Edwards being tabbed as the play calling D coordinator, and Stefanski being elevated, basically as a no harm, no foul there. But nah, I don't see Zimmer willing to give away power quite yet. Ivan Pacius, what happened to you last week? And shout out from Salt Lake City. Love Salt Lake, powerful Salt Lake. So we got a strike for hate speech. We had to sit out a week. It's great. Cool. I assume what happened is a bunch of Packer fans got together like, we shall report these videos for hate speech. Even though it's not. We rarely curse. This is pretty family friendly, but whatever. Doug Campbell, will you help me find a girlfriend? No. Ethan Bowman, listening to Under Center. I'd really like to be able to go forward with Cook and Cousins long time. Cook. Here's the thing, though. Who would you be willing to bet on getting a second contract here with the Vikings? Dalvin Cook or Kirk Cousins? Because Dalvin's going to be interesting because the running back contract market hasn't worked out really well. You look at Gurley, you look at David Johnson, you look at Le'Veon Bell, you look at Melvin Gordon's trying to get some more money. Good luck with that. Meh. And then Cousins might not even pick the Vikings. He may just find another team in free agency and just get all the money, right? Because the Vikings can't franchise tag him. Superstar, 2 questions. Would you rather see Minnesota go into Seattle or San Francisco for a playoff game? Second question is, would you rather see a pocket quarterback or a quarterback who can run pass as a franchise quarterback if Kirk Cousins doesn't get extended? Let's see here. I'd rather go to Seattle. Yeah, I'd rather go Seattle, and not so much that I think that San Francisco's home field advantage is that much better, because it's not. Seattle obviously has the advantage there, but I just think the Niners are that much better for a football team. Then pocket quarterback or running quarterback. Well, running quarterbacks are always exciting, and they bring extra dimension to the table, and it's something that puts a lot of strain on the defense and defensive coordinator. But also, you don't see NFL running quarterbacks into their 30s. Like, you see, remember Big Ben? He wasn't a runner, but he would always just like take on hits. He would scramble around. He'd buy extra time. Yeah, he ain't doing that anymore. Same thing with Cam Newton. His body's dying, but also that maybe because he went vegan, but that's a whole nother argument for another day. And Lamar Jackson, super exciting now. He's amazing. But will he be in the league when he's 32? He might be. Well, he'd have to adapt for sure. But the reason why you see so many running quarterbacks in college is because you get a new one every 2, 3, 4 years, right? But as that body ages, as you get a little bit older, and I think Lamar Jackson does have the skills and acumen to do this, where if he does become more of a pocket passer and he works on his accuracy even more, even though it's come leaps and bounds since Louisville, then he can succeed later on into his career. But just for interesting sake, I'd say whatever. Bring on the running quarterback. I mean, just do it. Give us Jalen Hurts, sure. Jerome Jabroni. What would be the biggest thing to shut down on Sunday against the Chargers? Joey Bosa and Austin Eckler. Seth Herman. Do you think we'll go out after any big-name free agents or trades this offseason? If so, who? Well, hashtag cap is a myth, but the Vikings are pressed up against 2020 cap. I think they could move on from, I think they should move on from Xavier Rhodes. I think they could move on or at minimum restructure Riley Reef, so there could be some money. There's always money in the banana stand, but names off the top of my head, none at the moment. Maybe Darius Slay. Travis, do you think the Packers will lose any of their remaining games besides the one against us? I think that they have a very significant chance of losing this week against the Bears. Division game, Bears are playing great. Packers are actually frauds, like we talked about in the video on Thursday. So, the Portman plays. Will Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith Jr. have a lesser role when Thielen comes back? Also, who's your favorite defensive lineman in Vikings history? Skull. Start out with favorite defensive lineman. Interior, go John Randall. Edge, Jared Allen. And also, I think Rudy and Irv have carved up enough of a role that I think they will have a decent role even when Thielen gets back, especially Rudy in that red zone. I think he's really stepped up there. Isaac Rupright. Do you think Holton Hill could get a decent amount of snaps if Rhodes and Hughes aren't 100%? Absolutely. Plus, he should. Nathan Shit. That's not your name. Nathan Shitter. I love the way they've been using C.J. Ham lately. We need to continue to do so. Also, do you think he could be a little Jim Kleinsasser, maybe retire here? Yeah, I would love to see a C.J. Ham, the Pride Duluth / Augustana, spend his career here with the Vikings. He's coming up on, I believe he's in a contract year or he's a restricted free agent next year, one of the two. The fullback market ain't exactly bustling outside of Kyle Juszczyk. So CJ, would like to see him getting taken care of. Also, I think he is a very selfless team-first guy. He's a great lead blocker. He's a very underrated receiver and running back as well. Would love to see him stay here. Mason Gaynor. Do you think the Vikings are going to win a playoff game under Kirk, Jerome, Cousins? All right, so this year and next year, will the Vikings win a playoff game? I would put the odds at 35% they do. Or for ease of math, so 33%. So 1 time in 3. Yeah, put it about that. Chris Har said, did you have any luck deer hunting? I bricked. But we also went season B, so most of the deer were dead. Gage Sandin. What if we don't even make the playoffs? What happens to our veterans such as Griffin and Rudolph? Well, if the Vikings somehow brick this and don't make the playoffs, Rams or Bears get in. Future of Zimmer and Spielman could certainly be up in the air. And then if there's a new GM, all bets are off. I think Rudy has earned staying for another year. Maybe they restructure that contract. Everson can opt out of his contract. So TBD there. But yeah, everything would be in flux. Gerald Herbert. Do you think Phillip Rivers will make the Hall of Fame due to seriously underrated? I think so. Probably not first ballot, but I think third or fourth ballot he probably gets in. And rightfully so. I think he's had a better career than Big Ben as well as Eli Manning, by the way. Wednesday at 11. All right, so 2 questions. Salted pretzels or sweet pretzels? Salted. Number 2, have you ever tasted Vegemite? Yes. It's not great. Number 3, do you think Pat Elflein has improved enough to keep him as starter next year, or do you look for a replacement? I think you're always trying to bring in competition. I think Elflein has stopped the bleeding, for lack of a better term, the last couple of weeks, but also Drew Samia, year 2. I think he should firmly be in the mix. Potentially Brett Jones if he comes back yet again off of the injury. Also Dakota Dozier. I mean, he has familiarity with Rick Dennison and the scheme, so that could help him coming into year 2 as well. But also, you should be looking to draft some interior offensive linemen early day 3, maybe even late day 2. Megan Braun. What are the odds that Thielen is out for the rest of the season? 0. Well, I guess he could get hit by a car, so 0.02%. Knock on wood. Active Andal. Do you think the Vikings will get to the Super Bowl? And if so, who'd you like to see face them? Let's see, who's the worst team in the AFC? Vikings versus Titans. No, but in actuality, like Vikings versus Ravens, as the Ravens being like the end boss, that would be such a sweet game. I mean, come on. Moss for life, a biggest pet peeve. I don't know. Not a lot bothers me. I'm just weird like that. Well, I guess, so if you watch like YouTubers or Instagram influencers, and by the way, I don't consider myself a YouTuber or an influencer. I just don't. I just make videos. But you see it a lot of times where it's like, so a lot of people have been asking me about this, where it's like, man, no one's been asking you about shit. No one's been asking you anything. You just wanted to talk about subject A, and you just didn't want to talk about it. Where it's like us. A lot of people have been asking me if Kirk Cousins is a top 5 quarterback. No, I just wanted to talk about it. That's it. That's why I like being real. Because it's so rare nowadays. Anyways, King of the North. If Madison has to carry the load RB1, do you see any games where he can rush for 100, 150 yards? In the future, sure. But also he's dinged up this week. Mark Wills, Sydney Pacific correspondent here. Number 1, do you have any sense of the degree of Vikings use quantitative analysis for the decision making? Yeah, they actually do have a pretty sizable analytics staff. How much of that information gets used? TBD. Number 2, would Zimmer just retire, or given he is single, he is all in for any job? I actually don't see him ever retiring. I could see him going like a modified Monty Kiffin route, where he is the head coach for as long as he possibly can. If he gets fired from his head coaching job, takes a D coordinator job, etc., and then eventually becomes because Adam Zimmer, I believe, is going to be getting a defense coordinator job somewhere in this league sometime very soon. Maybe he becomes a head coach someday as well. And I could see Zimmer, once he's of a certain age, just on staff, being a consultant with Zimmer the Younger's staff. I think that'd be really awesome. Also, sort of the way that Kubiak is keeping himself in the game, but taking a little bit off of his plate. Sean Berger. What is your plan for YouTube? Is this a hobby for you, something you want to grow, become successful at, a bigger opportunity ahead? I really know. I enjoy making the content. Like I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it. I love the community that we built up here of the Jeromes. It's it's a nice little side hustle. It does bring in a couple shekels, which is nice. But in terms of like growing, I mean, I think this offseason we will be looking to expand, talking about more general NFL stuff, but also keeping up with the Vikings content. So I don't know. We'll just see where this takes us. But if we get hammer banned again, I don't know. For hate speech. A Clinton 14. If you had a child with one player on this team, whom would it be with? Well, I think you'd have to say Daniil, right? Because he's an Adonis. Or, all right, so Daniil. Daniil or Harrison? Daniil Harrison or Anthony Barr? I think it just got, or maybe even Brian O'Neill, because Brian O'Neill low-key is a freak of nature as well. They all have great genetics going on. Anyway, Anthony Cartagena, how do you think our wide receiver 3 shakes out moving forward? Do you think Olabisi Johnson show enough to be the guy? Well, it's Chad Beebe's job when he gets back. No. I think BC has the inside track for the job. I think that he's done enough where it'll dissuade the Vikings from, drafting a mid-round wide receiver unless a certain one falls into the lap. I think Treadwell could be back next year. I think they could bring him back as a wide receiver 4. Also, guys like Davion Davis do intrigue me. The pride of Sam Houston State. He was my guy in camp. Glad to see him hanging around. And also Dylan Mitchell, potentially year 2. Could get a little bit more run. Aaron Affray. Why does natural grass bother players? It should only bother Holton Hill. Rim shot, but Xander McLaughlin. Xander McLaughlin. Dan Bailey said Colquitt's holder makes a much more comfortable season. Do you think this will be a solution to kicking woes, at least for the foreseeable future? Yeah. Who knew that having a competent holder was the key to a great kicking game? Just so weird. Caden Oatley. What will it take for the Vikings to be a team like the Niners on the road in the playoffs? Probably prime time. That defense. I mean, if that defense cinches things up, this offense can score points on anyone, I believe, if they're at full strength. So that's it. It's on you, Zimmer. Mr. Tristan, what's a more likely scenario? The Vikings win a playoff game or they lose a 6 seed to the Rams? I think it's more likely they win a playoff game. Because say they end up as a 6 seed, Green Bay ends up as a 3 seed. I could easily see the Vikings marching into Lambeau and getting it done, as well they should have week 2. It would just take a comedy of errors, which, again, don't put past the Vikings to lose the 6 seed to the Rams. Alex Mock. Is David Morgan still a Viking? Was expecting him to come back a while ago. I can't find any good info on his status. Well, apparently that knee was not ready to go. He was not brought off a pup, and then he reverted to IR. So, T-Rag, am I right to think with how we played against the Seahawks that we could beat any team in the playoffs on the road fully healthy? Yes. Yeah, I think there was a lot of positives to take out of that Seattle game, even though this season isn't about moral victories, but it does give you some confidence going forward. Drew Smith. Top 5 movies of the decade. Actually, I thought about this one. So Inception, Lone Survivor, Creed, Warrior, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Boom. What current Vikings are most likely to enter the Hall of Fame? I think the best bet right now would be Danielle Hunter, even though he's got quite a bit ways to go. I think Harrison Smith could have an outside shot, and the rest of the crew, probably not. Zach Hazlius. Vikings have lost 6 straight championship games, 78, 87, 98, 09, 09, 2000, 09, 17. If we get to this year, what are our chances? 100% win, because the past has no bearing on the future, and a lot of the players from 2017 aren't even on this team anymore. Completely different. Zach Jenner. Why are the Vikings capable of drafting quarterback for the future or even developing one? This is especially annoying when your team is always a quarterback away from winning the big one. Well, they don't invest much draft capital in it. So it's like, how come you don't win the lottery? Well, you're not buying a ticket. That's about it with the Vikings. Where when they have drafted quarterbacks, have drafted quarterbacks high, it's been relatively okay. You look at Dante, you look at Teddy before the injury, didn't work out with Christian Ponder. You look at Tommy Kramer, although he was a pretty low draft pick. You look at Wade Wilson, I believe, is an in-house draft pick. You look at Fran Tarkenton back in the day. I think he's a third-round pick in 61. Blue Cube 056. Look up the the Chiefs, because I think the Chiefs did not draft a quarterback in the first round for like 30 years. And then they picked Mahomes, and look what happened. Blue Cube 056. Favorite video game growing up, or movie rank rank every major sports stadium in Minnesota, rank least to favorite, and love the vid. Skull. See, favorite video game growing up: Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition, phenomenal. As well as an NES Super NES game called Gemfire, which is just like this turn-based strategy game. And then rank every major sports stadium in Minnesota. All right. Target Center at the bottom. I think it's a little dated. I think it needs a major overhaul. It's here. The XL Energy Center, mainly because, it's a beautiful arena. I'm just not that much of a hockey fan. Then I'd put TCF. Haven't been to Allinas, so leave that off the list for now. Then I put Target Field, then I put US Bank Stadium. I think US Bank Stadium is the best stadium in the NFL. Yeah, of course I'm biased, but objectively, I mean, it's got everything. This place has everything. It's got Danny DeVito. The password is Scotty or whatever. Anyways, that's the Friday Q&A session. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you want to subscribe, Daily Vikings Takes, you want to support the work, pull us up in the Venmo. It's Friday. Y'all just got paid. Do it up. And also, if you want this hat, details down below in the description. Anyways, Skull, production value.